Okay. So first, I want to go through what charcoal is. Okay, I believe that's a question for you guys on a quiz. Charcoal is an effective material for developing various approaches to drawing. Okay, it's a fast drawing material, right? Like pencils, you gotta take your time, it's kind of slow. Charcoal, you can just like, move it however you want. It's really fast. Some artists like it, I know I like it. I've done some things with it. Okay, you can have a range of contrast using charcoal, okay? Like you can be darkest to the dark to light, right? Because there's also white charcoal. And then there's no limit to the kinds of charcoal that use. Some charcoal tools and supplies. Okay, we have vine charcoal, we have compressed charcoal, we have a blending stump, we have white charcoal, and we have a kneaded eraser. Okay, these are some of the tools that you guys would be using when it comes to this project, okay? Very important, vine charcoal is going to be the first thing that you use when making anything using charcoal, like an image or, because it's really good at that detail, that first sketch that you need, right? Second is gonna be your compressed charcoal where you kind of like fill things in, right? Real fast, it's a little bit larger, okay? And then you have your charcoal pencils, which would be the last step to your charcoal drawing, right? Which you can get into that fine detail. If you're doing eyes or eyebrows or noses, like you can really get in and get those dark areas really nice, okay? So can someone tell me what the first step is to using charcoal if you guys are paying attention? What's the first thing you use?
Vine charcoal?
Right, vine charcoal, okay, good job. Can someone tell me what's the second step in using charcoal? Go ahead. Right, compressed charcoal. And then finally, a volunteer to tell me what's the last step?
Charcoal pencils.
Good, charcoal pencils, yes. Okay, so we kind of have an understanding of that. Erasers, this is a tool where you take away mistakes, but in charcoal, we're actually using it as a drawing tool, okay? Because it's really great to use for your highlights, okay? And then I put in fixative in there because I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's a spraying adhesive that keeps your charcoal secure on the drawing piece of paper, right? So, you don't like touch it and you get charcoal everywhere, okay? That's what fixative is, all right? Okay, so this is the old slideshow, but we'll work with it. Okay, I did fix it, but I forgot to post it on your Google Classroom. So let's just forget about shade. Okay, let's just pretend that shade is not there. And our concentration is going to be on value. So value is the relative degree of lightness and darkness of a particular color. So this color is, what color is charcoal? Black, okay, we're using black. So here's like a little example, and I'll show you guys better examples than this. But you see how it's the darkest of dark, and then it kind of moves towards the light, right? And then I'll be going through with you more about that step when we get further on. I did post a YouTube video on demonstrating how to create value, but I'm going to do that in person for you today. So this is just an additional resource for you guys to check out, okay? Okay. All right, so some directions on what this project is. It's called the Spooky Charcoal Drawing, right? And what you'll be doing is creating a charcoal drawing based on observational skills such as how to use highlights, right? How to use lowlights with the charcoal, your objects. okay? It must be something that you actively look at in real life, like a skeleton, or hands, or bats, or something that is mysterious or spooky, right? I also put a definition of grotesque, which I'll be going over with you when I'm done with this slide, okay? I wanna see a light source, okay, which means your highlights of white, okay? And then we talked about making it spooky, dark, and mysterious. I want you to fill your paper and make sure it's, you know, relatively large, okay? We'll be looking for value and highlights and shadows, okay? And if your things are sitting on a surface, you wanna make sure you have that extending shadow, okay? And I'll show you examples on it. Here's an example of a skull, right? That's a pretty good rendering of a skull. You see all that value coming to life? It almost looks like a 3D skull looking at you, right? What do you think? Yes? I see some heads shaking. Okay, what do you think about this? What do you guys think about this hand? You see the highlights and the shading that they did in this to make it look three-dimensional? The values are pretty nice. So you can use skeletons in this drawing. You can use gargoyles. Okay, gargoyles are part of the grotesque era, okay, which we'll be going over. Spider webs. Okay, portraits of, like, you know, people that look kind of mysterious and creepy, yeah. Okay, animals that have a dark side. There's plague masks, you know, that are kind of scary too. It looks like this is a real, you know, vulture skeleton to me. I think that looks kind of scary. And then here's some examples from students. So they use like Freddy Krueger's hand, right? There's like a hand in the mirror, right? That's kind of spooky. That reminds me of horror movies like, you know, Candyman, if any of you've seen it. And someone was inspired by the skull. Okay. Now, if you go to your Google Classrooms, there's resources here for you to check out. So some things I want you to make sure you look at is the YouTube video on, which we're not gonna watch, right? The YouTube video on the rendering and value of charcoal and how to do that. Then there's some things about grotesque, right? And what grotesque looks like. So take a look at this, you guys. This is pretty scary, right? Right? That's kind of horrific. Okay? And then there's some other things at the bottom, like this interesting image. You know, can someone tell me what's going on in that? What do you see? Some, right? Go ahead, don't be scared.
Snake.
Right, snakes. Okay, what else do we see? We see, yeah, tigers and wolves. Wait, what about this? Yeah, and I can't tell if that's like a sculpture or a drawing, right?
It's a sculpture.
It's a sculpture. So somebody literally made that into a three-dimensional sculpture protruding out of a box. Like, isn't that kind of weird looking? Yeah. Okay, so check that out. Okay. Another thing is, you know, I put some artists on here that this is a sculpture too. Like, yeah, it's kind of gross, right? So just keep in your mind that these are things that I'm looking for in your projects, okay? Oh my goodness. You know, Francis Bacon or Beacon?
Bacon.
Bacon? Also has like, I don't even know what's going on in there. To me, you know, to me, I think it's like some weird, distorted, like, person. Are you guys seeing that too? Yeah. Okay, hopefully I don't know why this is doing this to me today, but. We're figuring this out. Okay, and then Salvador Dali is also a good one. So can someone tell me what's happening in here? What's happening in this picture that you notice that's kind of spooky?
Looks like someone's trying to be a torture.
Yeah. So some people are being tortured. Okay, like what is that? What is that? Like what does that look like? A foot?
Like the birds. Kind of an animal. Like a bird's talons.
Yeah. You know, there's some bones and there's some feet. I don't know, like that reminds me of a tongue. You know, like just this spooky stuff, okay? That's mysterious, that's just kind of like, okay, horror movie, right? Okay, and lastly, I want to go over this because I will be demonstrating this to you guys today. This is a wonderful resource, this link that I posted on your Google Classroom. It does take a minute to load, so you will have to be patient. Okay, like we're being patient right now, waiting for it. I found this to be really educational in terms of like how to do your value, right? Because this is probably the first time that you guys are learning about this, right?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. So, you know, it just takes a minute for this to load. We'll just have to be patient. And if you feel like really motivated, I would even like take the time to print this out because it's just such a good resource. Okay, and this is like what I'm looking for in your sketchbooks because you will be doing sketchbook prompts, okay? So, there's, you know, your 5-step value, there's your 10-step value, and there's your blended scale. So in your sketchbooks, I'm having you guys do your blended scales, okay? If you wanna like do the 5-step scale and the 10, like good for you, okay? That means you're practicing, you're really interested. I'd love to see it. But really what I'm looking for is like a box with you practicing like the darkest to the lightest. And remember, erasers are your best friend for when you want that highlight, okay? And then, you know, finding where your light source is and your spheres and cones, because we will be drawing shapes and practicing shapes in your sketchbook, okay? So do you have any questions on this step at all? Anyone? Okay. So, you know, I like this. This is just such a good resource for you guys to check out. And it's right there in your Google Classroom, so you don't have to worry about it. Okay? Sounds good? I think we're ready to move on to our demonstration. So, if you guys can just like come up here and watch what I'm looking for in your sketchbooks, that'd be great. Okay. So, what I'm looking for is, you know, if you're interested in doing the squares, like go for it, okay? That way you can understand, like, this is my darkest of the dark, right? And this is my lightest of the light, which means I shouldn't be seeing any charcoal right there, okay? Does everyone understand? Yeah? Okay, and then your blended one, where you go and just blend it, okay? So that way I know you understand how to do value. And then we're gonna practice some stuff on how to do, you know, your spheres and things. So if you have an actual object, right, you'll already know, like, okay, here's my dark and here's my light. Does that make sense? So that's why I'm asking you guys to do this. Okay, so you're gonna take your charcoal, right, and it's very messy, so please expect to get dirty, okay? I don't want you guys like freaking out or anything, but it is dirty, okay? So, what I'm looking for is, like in your dark, like you don't have to go super duper hard, right? sometimes if you go too dark, it gets kind of really messy. So I would just like go through it kind of lightly. And then I would like fade it out with my finger, okay? Or a blending stick. Okay, blending sticks are perfect for that, okay? And just kind of move along in your box, okay? And then I would just go over it again, right? Where your darkest of the dark is. And then keep using my finger to get that nice gradient of dark to light, okay? And your fingers and blending sticks are probably gonna be your best friends during this. So do you see how I did that? Yeah? Does everyone understand? Okay, and if you don't, like, I'll be walking around making sure you guys understand how to do this, okay? Okay. So then, for your shapes, like, it's really important to move with the shape, okay? So move with the circle instead of like going up and down, okay? Because that's how you're gonna make it look like a real circle, okay? Can you guys see, okay? You can come. Yeah, so just circle. Do you guys see how I'm doing that? Like moving around the circle? Does everyone see it? Okay. Okay. So, you know, I'm gonna start there, and then I wanna get my nice grays. And then just like keep going over and over and over it until you get that nice shade, right? And if you have things that are like sitting on a surface and you need the shadow, like I want to see that you guys are practicing that too. Okay, my circle is like, you know, still looking kind of flat, so I probably want to work a little bit more with it. But like, let's say, oh my gosh, I filled in my circle all gray. This is way too dark. I don't know, like, I don't like it. Then you'd go in and you'd use your eraser to make that highlight, okay? So just where your light source is, just make that nice highlight. So that's why it's important to remember, like, don't go so dark, because if you do, it's really hard to erase it. Okay? Does that make sense? Does everyone understand how to do that? Okay. Did you have a question?
No, just stretching.
Okay, I thought maybe you did. Okay, so what I want you guys to do today is work on this over your sketchbooks, and I'll be walking around making sure you understand. Okay, so before you get started on your other thing, let's just get this done real quick. Okay, so can everyone get their sketchbooks out and get started on this part?
Of course.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.